Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. I'm Michael Lauber, and tonight sitting in for Terry Newsom is Noah Herod. How you doing this evening, Noah?
I'm doing good. Coming off a week of resting up after CPAC and then headed back to the great state of Florida tomorrow. So doing well. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I was heading to the Sunshine State tomorrow. Here in Ohio, we're back to 26 degrees again. A winter is just not going to leave us alone. I can't believe this. But we got a very special guest with us tonight. Um, Jim Schenck is running for Congress in northern Indiana. And again, we keep talking about how we need fighters. We need people who are willing to go to Congress and actually make a change and not just capitulate to the uniparty and not let anything happen. Jim, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. Thanks for having us on the show.
Oh, thank you for being here. If you could give our audience a little bit of a rundown on who you are, why you're running, and what the key issues in your platform are. And then we're going to jump into some breaking news.
Well, I came of age with Iran attacking us. I was a 13-year-old kid when they took over all our hostages, and they talk about coming of age as a young man, but that's when I came of age politically and as far as a worldview. And that's why I've been very supportive of the actions the president's been taking. But I stayed up every night. I snuck out of bed at 12, 13 years old to watch Ted Koppel every night, Nightline, 444 Days of America Held Hostage. And while not as bad as being the victim of a Holocaust, I did take an attitude, never again. You'll never forget and never again. And I mean, we've got people who've already forgotten 9/11, much less
Yes.
the Iran hostage crisis. So I just can't forget these things. And so when we finally have an America First president who's taken action to make sure even worse things don't happen, which we're talking a nuclear holocaust is in the works and what we've been trying to prevent. But that watching Ted Koppel for 444 days, and then Reagan coming along and a new sheriff in town ended that debacle. My two
Yeah.
heroes were Ronald Reagan and Ted Koppel, and I was going to be one or both of them. And I've done both politics and broadcast journalism, and maybe didn't achieve the heights of either of those gentlemen, but I went to D.C. during Reagan's second term to be part of an ongoing study political science, be a journalist, become a part of the ongoing Reagan Revolution. There was no ongoing Reagan Revolution, and both parties made sure of that.
Yes.
As Joe Biden as much as Papa Bush. And I won't bore your audience with some of the insider knowledge that I learned about why we didn't end up with my guy Jack Kemp as the next president and Bush, but it's been going in the wrong direction. And by '92, I'm running in a steel making area, Gary, Indiana, Indiana's first district. We've been gutted for decades, and Trump was talking about it on Oprah and back in '88. It
Yeah.
was already going on, and we were selling these American workers and American voters out. And I've finally we had an American first president taken on. We took care of the Soviet communism, but now we've capitulated for 40 years to Chinese communism, and enough's enough. And that's why I'm standing up.
Oh yeah, and you're right about Gary, Indiana, because I think Trump also sunk a huge amount of money in that area in the late '80s or in the '90s. Brought in some new facilities, a new like event center, and some other things, but then local government didn't maintain it. They just let it go to pieces. There was never
Yep.
a real effort to rebuild the community around it. And I was talking to you off air last night, and I have an ex-girlfriend that lived in the area. We had to go run an errand for her family's business over in Gary, and I couldn't believe what this place looked like. It looked like an active war zone. We stopped on a corner, and they had multiple drug dealers, crack dealers, walk up to the car and want to know if we wanted to buy anything from them. I mean, it really is just a disgusting cesspool and needs real revitalization. They can't be a suburb of Chicago. We've got to go back in there, clean the area up, and make Indiana great again. They've got a lot of rhinos in state to deal with. That's one of their other big problems. They capitulated to just a few rhinos in the Senate there instead of redistricting. So we could have had a 2-seat pickup there, a guaranteed 2-seat pickup. But we've got too many spineless rhinos, or as I like to call them, undocumented Democrats, at the state level and the federal level that just will not utilize the power the people give them. And this has been the big failure in Congress and Washington, D.C. over the last 12 months, is they've either they've accomplished next to nothing or stood in the way of actual progress. We should be running the tables right now, but nobody on our side has the courage to do that, or not enough do. But we should have pushed through our whole wish list. Everything that we've been fighting for the last 30 years, we could have had across the finish line in the first 6 months, but that's been a just disaster in Congress. And unfortunately, the DOJ has been the other big failure. We'll get to some of that here later this evening too. But the fact of the matter is, we're over 14 months in now, and not one deep state politician or intel agent or anybody in federal law enforcement or anybody else that's been we're pulling the strings behind the scenes, abusing the federal power of government, weaponizing our justice system, or anything else. Not one of them have had any level of accountability, and it's pathetic. Bondi's out. We're hearing different names of who might be in. I saw that Peter Tickton just threw his hat in the ring. He'd be awesome. He's an attorney who's worked for both Mike Lindell and President Trump. We're also hearing Harmeet Dillon. I think she'd be better than Bondi, but I don't have a lot of faith in her either. You know, she quietly dropped the whole auto pen case against the Biden regime a few months ago, and hardly anybody knows that. It was done with, little fanfare, just, we're just going to walk away with this. When in reality, again, we know, we suspect that pardons were being sold by Kamala Harris, Hunter Biden, and others within the Biden regime. Guess there's not going to be any accountability there. We know all the pardons except for Hunter were auto-penned. So I guess Hunter got a real pardon, but we don't know if Joe Biden even knew they were using his name to approve the other ones. And now I guess we're just not going to chase that down. We're going to give up on that battle too, which is pathetic in my book. But let's get to some breaking news here real quick, and then dive into all the other wonderful things we have to discuss. And that's apparently there's been a deal cut with Iran, though we are hearing now that may be not the case. President Trump announces double-sided ceasefire, agrees to suspend Iran bombing for 2 weeks. Iran accepts. Now, there are some other people reporting that, this deal's not so good. Maybe we're going to stick with the ceasefire for 2 weeks. And I'll tell you, the little bit I've seen from this 10-point plan, this is not a good deal. We should not be making this. Apparently, according to this, we are going to be ceding control of the Straits of Hormuz to Iran. They're also going to be taxing every ship that comes through now at, what did I say a minute ago, $1 million or $2 million? I think it's $2 million per ship, of which Iran's government will get half the money, Oman's will get the other half. Apparently, we're just going to let them keep all their nuclear material, all the uranium. We are not going to go in and get that now. Which really makes me wonder, like, what was the point of all this then? I really don't understand. Maybe we're hoping that people will finish the job and topple the regime. I hope that's what ends up happening. We need to get rid of this Islamic dictatorship. But I don't know. I just have extreme levels of frustration right now. This really is the deal we just took.
Well,
any thoughts?
I hope it's not a deal. I just hope it's a tapping the brakes and a pause, because we've gained nothing that I can see that we went over there to achieve. And there's an argument that we've moved backwards, if only because we weren't paying. No one was paying to get through the strait, before all of this kerfluffle. But perhaps I don't know. Are we on the third team of leadership over there? They were joking. Maybe they weren't joking. There was no one to negotiate with. If we got a solid but not realistic proposal on the table, maybe this is a chance to start talking turkey and stop dropping bombs. But you're right. The current deal, as we've been exposed to it, is not acceptable.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm reading through some more of this right now. They're saying that they're going to use this tax on vehicles or ships, that are moving through the straits to rebuild their infrastructure, which we destroyed. I don't really see any upsides in here for the United States, other than we don't have to drop any more bombs for at least 2 weeks. I really can't see the Iranian government adhering to their end on this. And again, we're just going to leave the nuclear material there. I thought that was one of the key factors going in, that and them slaughtering 40,000+ of their own civilians who are out in the streets protesting. We did hear over the weekend, Trump said that some weapons have been delivered to the Iranian people to fight back with, some guns. We are hearing, though, too, that these were handed off to the Kurds, and a lot of them never actually made it to the freedom fighters in Iran. So I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I know that they want a deal. Trump always, prefers a deal or something to the alternative. However, I don't feel like Iran's Islamic government is people that you can trust or make a deal with. At this point, we really do just need to wipe them out. As you said, this is 47 years of terrorism. These people are the key financiers for Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al Qaeda, you name it. They are under the Iranians' thumb. They are the bank, the clearinghouse for funding all these terrorist organizations. They're also greatly influential or have direct control over what they're doing. They're the ones approving a lot of these attacks, whether it's here, Europe, Israel, it doesn't matter. Iran's government is the one behind it. They're the ones pulling the trigger or giving the order to pull the trigger. It's unacceptable to leave them in place. I think, especially with the American lives already lost and the high cost that we've already paid here, that we need to actually finish the job and just take them off the board once and for all.
Right. I'd say the bombs keep going until the uranium is handed over. The
Yep.
60% uranium, there five. You only need 5% for energy, 20% for some research issues. 60% is around saying yes, we are going to have a bomb regardless. I have to deal with some young people, but there's a fatwa saying that they can never have a bomb. Well, they've spent
Yeah.
decades making sure they have the fuel for it, and it is there. And they've made threats to annihilate Israel and to also the big Satan, which is us. And as far as not being trustworthy, Reagan used to tell us trust but verify. Now, that was in relation to communists who had the ends justifies the means, which includes lying to your opponent. Well, we're dealing with a Islamic State, and their holy book says it is not only allowed, but pretty much their duty to lie to the
Yes.
infidel to gain advantage over them. So there, there, no piece of paper is going to guarantee the safety of ourselves and our allies. And we went there for a purpose to end their nuclear capabilities. And as long as they have that fuel, they're pretty darn close to having it. And
Yep.
the White House isn't asking me at this moment, but I would tell the nation and my constituents I can't support the complete end of this endeavor until the
Yeah.
fuel is out of their hands.
Yeah, agreed. That's something we can't capitulate to. And as you said, 60% is well past what they need for research or energy needs. So we know that's a crock. You're already approaching weapons grade at this point. Not to mention, earlier today we bombed 50 targets on Karg Island to basically strip that of viability or prevent them from holding it from with some entrenched placements that were already there, and then hitting some of the infrastructure on there in areas that we thought they were already been launching attacks from. Also on today, today it came out that they're out digging up missiles they had buried all over the place right now and rearming. So this doesn't seem like a good time to be making this move. Yes, they're going to lie. There's Takia, but also and I'm forgetting the term for this, so I apologize. But they are allowed to sign treaties for a period of up to 10 years that they don't intend to keep, and that's also Islamic law. So they clearly can't be trusted. They're on the run. They're as you said, we've gone through at least 3 levels of their leadership. The fatwa you mentioned earlier, that may not be valid anymore either. If the person that wrote the fatwa is dead, then the fatwa is no longer in effect. So I don't know if that was written by Khomeini or who it was, but that also may be out the window anyway, and that may also be going into their calculus here. They may have no longer be restrained from using nuclear-capable weapons. But the bottom line is, I know they want peace. I know there's a lot of pressure for us to end things over there. There's a lot of people saying that we're going to be in a war. There's another forever war. I don't think it's that, but I also don't want to pull the plug early and end up with an even worse problem on our hands a few months from now, because that will undoubtedly be what happens if this government is not overthrown and defeated once and for all.
Exactly. I mean, no half measures, and that's been one of the good attributes of a Trump presidency, that
Yeah.
we don't have forever wars because it doesn't take half measures. I mean, he goes in and he takes he goes in and he takes Venezuela's oil tankers, and he takes their president, then he takes their oil, and there's a justification for it. There's a announcement of what we're going to do, and then we do it. And I would be disappointed if he pulls back from the mission that he has entered us into. And I don't think this is over. Though I guess with $5, $6 gas, there is extraordinary pressure, uh, even from his own party, for Trump to, you know, tap the brakes or
Yeah.
even withdraw.
Well,
And but we've already talked about the nefarious influence of the rhinos in our party.
yeah. Oh, I mean, I got a quick question for both of you guys then here, real quick, because here gas is up to about 350, 360 a gallon. I'm in Ohio. Is it really that hot? Is it really hitting $5, $6 a gallon anywhere in the country besides, California, where they have their own special blend and enormously high gas taxes? I did see the images a little while back that it was $8 a gallon in LA, but that's, they largely did it to themselves. When that was going on, we were up to about $3 a gallon here. So maybe it is that bad there. I do know a lot of countries in Europe are suffering, but that's their own fault too. Um, they've cut off fuel from Russia. They've cut off other sources that they had. We've been offering to sell LNG and another fuel to them. So far, they haven't really taken us up on that, not to scale at least. Um, you know, I saw that in Germany and Austria that the U.S. equivalent was like $12 per gallon per diesel up there right now. But again, when you cut yourselves off and you're totally relying on us. I mean, NATO should have stepped up to keep the straits open. They are a lot more dependent on the fuel, the fertilizer, the food, and other things that move through the strait. Only 1% of the goods that flow through the Strait of Hormuz go to the United States. I'm sure we can live without whatever that is. I don't know, pistachios and um, you got me. I got nothing else. Saffron probably. So I'm sure we can live without whatever's coming over from there right now. It wouldn't affect us at all. But the problem is the petrodollar. If the gas trade, we need oil and natural gas to continue to be traded in the petrodollar, or the U.S. dollar collapses. That's really the only reason I can think of why that would matter, because at some point, since oil is traded globally, the prices will start to have an even greater effect here. Even though we're buying our own energy, primarily at like 90 to 95% of the gasoline in the U.S. is now produced here, with the balance coming over from primarily Canada. It will affect us because the companies will want to sell on world market prices, as they've always done in the past. But we can't let that hold us hostage. I don't really care if all these European countries are upset about it. If they won't do anything to help secure the ports, then they can cry. And I really think that's the approach we should take. I mean, what's the point of having NATO? We were just talking about this off air, that the UK sent one warship down and it's already on its way back home because they can't produce their own clean water. I mean, that is pathetic. I don't even know how a country that used to have an empire around the world that the sun never set on can't even get one naval vessel to the Straits of Hormuz now. I mean, Europe's priorities are so upside down and backwards. And I get part of the problem there is they're afraid that Londonistan in Paris will start the religion of peace. All these boat migrants they've taken in will literally burn down both cities if they go in and actually assist us in keeping the straits open. That'll be seen as an action against Iran, therefore an action against Islam, and they will light fires in the street and burn those cities down. And I think that's the real fear.
Well, I actually heard there's all kinds of things floating around the internet, but there is a theory that having the strait closed or restricted actually may ultimately serve Trump's and America First purposes, in the sense that we've
Yes.
become largely self-sufficient with oil, and whose oil has been restricted so far. India, China,
Hmm.
countries that we're opposed to, and they may actually, if I don't, if we're paying 2 million a ship, I don't know exactly what that does to the flow of goods, including oil, but certainly increases the cost. But they may have to come deal with us, especially since we have Venezuelan supplies available to us, and so we've kicked Iran and China out of so many areas of influence in our hemisphere, and increased our self-sufficiency, and even a surplus of oil here in the Western Hemisphere. I'm not going there per se, but it's a thought that gives me a little bit of comfort if the strait remains closed or somewhat restricted.
Yeah, I think you got that right, and I think it is an opportunity, and that's how we should be playing it. Is This is an opportunity to start supplying Europe with American oil and natural gas, maybe a little Venezuelan too. Uh, Maybe we get Canada back in the game and uh, out of China's butt. Maybe they can step back up and be an actual ally again.
Mhm.
Noah, what are your thoughts on all
Mhm.
this?
Well, if we're looking at the deal, I don't think it's the best deal he could have made. But keep in mind, Trump is a chess player, so Trump could just be seeing, hey, are they willing to make a deal for 2 weeks? Can they keep their word for 2 weeks? Or are they going to keep breaking it and being wishy-washy? If you look back when we initially attacked their nuclear facility, 2 nights before we attacked their nuclear facility, we had made a deal with them, and Iran always goes back on it. And to piggyback off of what Jim said, it's okay for them to lie to the infidel. That is their religion. It's Iran's wet dream to see an Israel on fire, just completely bombed, to see the U.S. hurt. I mean, for 47 years, these people have been chanting death to America, and that's not going to change anytime soon. I think the best thing to do is keep bombing the absolute hell out of them. If your opponent's drowning, you walk over and stick a hose in their mouth, and that should be our mentality with them. Now, if this was
Yeah.
a country like Canada or a different type of country, we could be gentlemen and we can come to a gentleman's deal. But these people don't have it in them. They've hated us since the last 3,000 years, and they're going to keep hating us. We're the infidel. We're the big bad empire. We're the bad guys to them. And that's not going to change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look what they just did with the down pilot there. They threw all these assets to try to get him before we could, and whoops, and um, had they gotten a hold of him, he would have been tortured. He would have been paraded around. It would have been a big victory for them, at least in the public eye, at least a big propaganda victory. And this is still the same people that we're dealing with. Um, I just read, and this is just breaking right now, so again, I don't have confirmation of this, but they're saying Pakistan's prime minister begged Trump for the 2-week deal to end civilization ending strikes on radical Iranian Islamic regime. So that may be what happened. Is this may be more due to pressure from Pakistan, which again I don't know why we're listening to Pakistan. After all, they helped hide Osama bin Laden for what was it 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Um, and they're not exactly a real ally. Like I know their government assists us occasionally with some things here and there, but they're certainly not an ally. Their people are absolutely not. But I again I hope this isn't true, but I could see this being if we were asked about this. But any final thoughts on this, Jim? And then we're gonna jump into some other more relevant topics to having you on here.
Well, I think economically we'll be fine. We can't give up until the nuclear capacities are completely undone. But I did have a thought while you were talking. At least one of you fellows was down there in CPAC with me, and it was heartwarming. The hundreds of Persians or Iranians, Iranian
Yeah.
Americans, expats who were down there celebrating. The prince was down there. Uh, the joy at the prospect of having a free and, if not democratic, is certainly a more egalitarian society where science and culture and certain levels of freedom can reign again.
Yeah.
Like I said, remember, I can't remember a pre Ayatollah Iran, but I've been
Yeah.
exposed to it since then, and it's an absolute beautiful thing. And if that we can't necessarily fight a war for it. Certainly can't fight a ground war for it. But I'll tell you what, that's one more reason not to give up on this effort.
Yep. And real quick,
Yeah.
if I could add real quick, Mike, and this is as we're driving into CPAC, just hundreds and hundreds of people literally in tears celebrating. And I wanted to say this to all the leftist lunatic liberals that are all mad about this. These people are using children as human shields. They are raping women. They stone women. They don't let women outside without a burqa on their face. And somehow we're the bad guys because we're trying to liberate and free these people. These people, you should have been there. Like as Jim was saying, these people were so happy, cheering, and this is the first taste of freedom that they've had in a long time. And even though they're already here in the United States, most of those people have family back in Iran who haven't been able to come taste freedom and come taste the greatest country on earth. So just to the leftist lunatics freaking out, you should really do your research and see what those women and children and even men have to go through in a country like that.
That's the thing, today's modern leftist feminists, they still want their women of Iran wearing trash bags and tents. They run out here fat and naked, and we're just supposed to tolerate it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's upside down and backwards. Obviously, you guys know Annie Cyrus, the other owner here at Ex America News. She's from Iran originally. She was sold into slavery at 13. She knows exactly what these people have been through. There's a reason they were all out in the streets there outside of Dallas for CPAC. It's because these people grew up under real tyranny and oppression and actually understand it. The people that are here in the U.S. largely are people that fled the tyranny there. They left their country. A lot of them snuck over the border into Turkey or into other places. Annie got her asylum here through the UN back in 2002 when the UN still served a somewhat useful purpose. At this point, we just really need to disband it and pull our money out of it. There is zero reason we should be paying 25% of their operating costs, but nearly 50% of their total budget. That is insane. But it's actually better than it used to be, because in 2005, we were paying almost 67% of their total operating cost. So at least we're in a little better position than we were. And actually, we probably are at a lower number now since Trump did cut off close to 90 programs that we were funding through the UN just a few months ago. But anyway, I digress there. These are people that really want freedom. And what a lot of people don't understand is it was not an Islamic country prior to the Ayatollah taking over. When it was still a kingdom, a Persian kingdom, yes, it was the dominant religion. However, it was a free country. It used to be known as Mini America. Most people don't know this, but they actually lived under the U.S. Constitution was their ruling law, minus the Second Amendment. Instead of a president, they had a king. So it was a constitutional monarchy that limited the king's authority. But most people here don't know that. A lot of the people want to return. They just want to return to some freedom where, women aren't going to get beat to death in the street because their hair came out from under their burqa, where you're not going to get kidnapped in the middle of the night, drug in, tortured, and questioned because some neighbor said you said something the regime wouldn't like. So again, the people there deserve freedom. We should push this Islamic regime off a cliff, get rid of them, arm the people, and let them take to the street and retake their own country. I would love to see Reza Pahlavi in as the transitional government there. As he said, he wants a 2-year term to get them back on the right path, to clean out the rest of this cancer that's in their country, and then have free, fair, and open elections so the people of Iran can finally, after 47 years, determine their own fate going forward. All right, anything you guys want to add into that, or should we jump to the next topic here?
Well, last thing, just so people know, you get rid of the Ayatollah for good and out of Iran, all the little sleeper cell, small terrorist organizations are going to follow. You're not going to have your Al Qaeda, you're not going to have your ISIS, because when Iran is funding homegrown terrorism, it creates a power vacuum, and there's just tribe here, tribe there, tribe here, tribe there, and it destabilizes the Middle East. If we have a healthy Iran, we can definitely have a healthy Middle East.
Agreed. Yeah, well said. And that is the other factor we kind of touched on. But yeah, Iran's government being the bank, the clearinghouse, and really the control factor behind all these Islamic terror groups, that goes away. And that reshapes not just our country, but the whole world and the Middle East. I mean, think about, we talked about a few days ago on my program, these coordinated attacks that happen in numerous countries in Africa over Easter weekend, in Nigeria, the Congo, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the other country was, against Christians. And some of them are still missing. They kidnapped a bunch of lumberjacks, loggers in the Congo, and they still haven't been seen. They found 20 some of them odd of them dead. There's still 50 missing. Numerous attacks on defenseless villages. And this is the way the religion of peace operates, not just here, but all around the world. And I think it will also destabilize that in other parts of the Middle East, because once you see your neighbors having freedom, once they're able to go outside without worrying about getting kidnapped and raped in prison, once they're able to actually purchase new technology, be part of the first world again, have running water, electricity, the other countries around them, they're going to want those freedoms too. And you're going to see people go into rebellion. They're tired of living under this Islamic dictatorships across the Middle East. And again, I think this will make it better for all of us around the world. It won't just lead to the increase of freedom, of human freedom and human rights. It will destabilize these despotic regimes that have been holding us hostage. Because make no mistake about it, Saudi Arabia is not exactly our friend. They're our friend out of convenience because we have the ability to crush their enemies, and them too, if we really want to. But they will lose their power over us once we are no longer reliant on the Middle East for their oil, their natural gas, their fertilizer, apparently their helium. I didn't realize they were such a large producer of helium, but I guess they are. I don't know. Do we really need helium, though? That's the question. Besides
That's the
balloons
good.
and producing microprocessors, I don't know what else it's used for.
Helium's the good stuff.
Right, right. All right. Well, I guess let's turn it back stateside here because they're in Indiana, just like in a lot of places. You've got quite a fight on your hands over there, and unfortunately, our biggest enemy on the right is the rhinos. So Jim, let's jump into the details of what's going on in Indiana, both at the state house and in your race in District 1.
Well, the state house, obviously, Texas redistricted, California retaliated, and all the pressure was on us to squeeze out a couple more Republican seats. It seemed like a reasonable request at the time, and Governor Braun, identified as a friend of Trump, did make that call, but the Senate warned him and drugged their feet, and they had to be brought into session against their will, and everyone thought the vote was going to be close. Now, we have a super majority in both our houses, uh, but it's a super majority with which we do very little. Maybe we could do, you were complaining earlier that in DC we have both houses and the White House, but do nothing. But we have the governorship and both houses by a supermajority, and we do not make very good use of it, including in this situation.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is the two most powerful men in our state are Mitch Daniels and Mike Pence, and
Huh.
they are somewhere between establishment and rhinos, and they are never Trumpers. And
Yeah.
they were influential in making sure that our state Senate, a majority of it wasn't even a close vote. People thought it would come down to a couple, 5 votes at the most. The majority of our supermajority voted against it. And frankly, if I'm not sure many people are actually speaking this, but I believe Mike Pence is gearing up for another presidential campaign. He's been hiring off some
Yep.
disgruntled heritage folks. Nobody's calling for a President Pence or even a campaign. But if
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries takes over the House, think how many uh, in, the impeachments will have, and some of them are going to be successful. And it's not just going to be Pence; it's going to be. I mean, it's not going to be just be the president. They're also going to go after
Yeah.
JD. They're going to go after Rubio. They're going to go after Nome, even though she's out of office. Well, I don't know if you can impeach someone that's already been fired, but Tulsi.
That
They're gonna run the gamut for all kinds of war crimes and domestic. They're going to go crazy, and that could
yes.
burn. We got a very deep bench of people who are qualified to be president, but they're going to burn. They're going to try and burn through that bench, and then all of a sudden it's going to be, hi, Mike's going to be, hi, I can do it, and that's my impression of. That's my best understanding of what's happened, especially since after we didn't redistrict, when when everyone thought my district, I was the only candidate for 6 months. I
Yeah.
came in when it was D+3. My team and I knew that this thing was going to move right with President Trump in office, with the trade policies, the hard, well, the tariffs and the hard negotiations with China. I mean, he was calling
Yep.
out China and Japan 40 years ago about gutting our steel. Well, that's why Gary looks like it looks. Back then, we had over 200,000 people. Now we barely have 60,000 in that city because our industry got gutted. Well,
Yeah.
the Nippon Steel deal, which Biden and my incumbent opposed, uh, they've kept their word. $14 billion. It's saved thousands of jobs. It's adding thousands of jobs. They're renewing the
Hmm.
plants. they're talking about bringing in a new plant. So my district has moved significantly to the right. D+3 a year ago, D1 in August, toss up in Christmas. And when I was at CPAC, I was informed the needle may have just moved to the right of center. But we did not redistrict. But when we did, everyone thought it was going to be R8 or R12. And a bunch of people came out of the woodwork, including the last two unsuccessful nominees. But the person who did not go back into the woods is I've been criticized for calling her a Nikki Haley wannabe, but she's a Pence puppet. She's got the people running her campaign have run campaigns for both Mike Pence and her brother, his brother, and I, which makes me very suspicious since I'm pretty sure Pence didn't was instrumental in us not redistricting, and now he's got a horse in the race. It almost feels like a doubling down to make sure that we don't flip the seat because this gal could buy the primary, but she's going to get creamed in the general election because we're trying to get steelworkers and teamsters and carpenters to come over to our side. And this Pence puppet she carries a poodle around in her purse, going to political events and enthusing at length about how she moved to the district so she could afford a 5-acre estate on which to garden. Uh, this is not going to be what takes out Frank Mervan and brings over all those Trump and Reagan Democrats.
Exactly. And again, this seems like such an easy path. I don't understand the dysfunction in the state level GOP in so many states, because this is part of why we're seeing low turnout in a lot of these midterm elections is people want something to be excited about. We want a fighter. That's why we got behind President Trump. But when you have a state with a supermajority in both houses of people that have R's next to their name, that they're at least pretending to be Republicans or conservatives, and we can't get it through, that we block ourselves, because it isn't just you guys in Indiana. I mean, I was shocked when Indiana backed out of it. It's Utah. It's Tennessee. It's Arkansas. There's several states that won't touch this. And instead, we could have had a good number of pickups there. Instead, we just had Florida and Texas continue the fight. We're hearing West Virginia might too, but I don't think they have any Democrats in office anyway, but they're going to make it impossible, apparently, for there to be any at the federal level. I'll have to double check that, though, but I'm pretty sure they don't have any. But, you have to at least have the will to fight. Now, if there were, if the calculus was different and it was close and you had one or two Republicans flip and vote with the Democrats and there was at least an effort to do it, I'd feel a little differently. But this is the problem, and this is why voters are dissatisfied right now, is this betrayal over and over again from our
Yep.
Congress, from people at the state level, that we give them the power and then they refuse to do anything. They want to go back to gentlemen's rules from the 1800s and respect our enemies, not step on their toes. We don't want to do anything untoward. Well, we have the power because they could do that to us in the future. I mean, they're telling us right now that they will get rid of the filibuster what they need to if they have power again. They are telling us they want to impeach at least 2 Supreme Court justices. I wonder which 2 that could be, and stack the courts. We already know that they will be off the rails if they're ever given a chance again. And let's not forget, they still have a lot of J6 defendants that they can prosecute that won't be covered by the initial pardon, so they can start going right back to arresting people again, and have no doubt they will. The DOJ is the other great failure. By November of Biden's first year in office, they had already arrested over 1,400 J6 defendants. 80 other Republicans were wrapped up in investigations. Now, some of those were legitimate, but the vast majority of those were also politicized. These are school board parents and other people. Yeah, there were a few that were campaign finance and other non-political crimes, but the vast majority were pure politics. And let's not forget, too, some of the other people that the Biden DOJ went after to try to set precedent to go after other people like Keone Rodriguez, that owned a Samurai Wallet, crypto wallet company. They wanted to get their claws in there. Michael Castellaro, another great example there, that was beginning to sell financial products that were primarily only available to top investors, hedge funds, people like that. Laws were changed. You could have been selling to the public. They didn't like that. They had to smash him like a fly, make sure that didn't happen again. And this is who these people are. They are going to continue the lawfare against the American people, because it isn't just conservatives, it's the American people. They want all power and all dominance, but our side doesn't seem to get it, that we are fighting for the heart and soul of America right now. And if we don't win this battle, we may not have a country in another 5-10 years. Again, that's why we need fighters like you, somebody that will go to Congress, isn't afraid to take a stand, and does care about your area too. I mean, you obviously have deep roots in northern Indiana. You really care about what's going on there in Gary. You don't want these people suffering in the poverty that they've been in, at least since I was a kid. In the 80s, Gary was already bad. In the 90s, it was a war zone. And it, like I was telling you off air, I had to drive through it and it looked like a third world country. And that ain't good.
Yeah.
No. Good. No, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, when we're talking about state level politics, like for instance, they have a great candidate like Jim, and then they throw somebody else in there, and that we see that across, like even Illinois, Jim's neighbor. We had a really great kid running, 25 years old. His name's Skylar Dunsing, bright, talented, radiant like Charlie Kirk. Created the second biggest or turning point chapter in the country in Wisconsin. Just a great kid, and out of nowhere, they throw in this Muslim Brotherhood adjacent lady who ended up beating him in the primary, and she's taken money from friends of the Muslim Brotherhood. I forget the name if you can remind me, Mike, but this is what we're seeing state by state.
Was it CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations?
Yeah, and there was another word, but regardless, we're seeing this state by state by state. We have good, strong America First candidates, and for whatever reason, the kiss the ring policy within state GOPs. No, you didn't ask me permission. I'm gonna run somebody that we asked to run, and it's just we are seeing it so many times, and people are getting tired of it.
Yeah, it's got to stop. We got to stop eating our own.
No, I outed myself as MAGA some years ago. I was at January 6th, and it's by the grace of God that I didn't get arrested. Not because I did anything illegal, but there was people 30 feet away from me doing the same thing I was, praying, singing patriotic songs, who got the FBI knocking at the door a few days later, and ended up doing 30 days in jail. I I never wore a mask for the entire pandemic. But that day, I was staying with I was staying with my father, and he's older and he was scared to death of COVID. And he said if I was going down there with those dirty, unwashed, unvaxxed guys, if I wanted to come home to his house, I was going to be wearing a mask. So I wore a mask that day. I bought my MAGA hat. So you couldn't see much. So that the facial recognition was off the table. And my father gave me a Christmas gift with a brand new cell phone. So I hadn't even used my cell phone that day, and I was paying cash. Otherwise, I probably would have had knocks on the door myself. And I can tell you that thing. I don't know if we want to go down. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but I went to school in D.C. I used to get tours of the Capitol to family and high school groups, and I knew that thing was off and stank to high heaven as soon as I approached Capitol Hill. There was so many things that were off, and like I said, I won't bore you yet, but I knew what it was. My spidey sense went off, and look, I was there as on the watchtower to stand witness to what could have, should have been history. Choosing between an Adams and a Jackson, some huge constitutional issue that was going to finally get a 12-hour hearing. It still hasn't had a hearing. Uh, um, and of course, our Department of Justice, as you lamented earlier in the show, has not gone after the players in that election. But in a decade or two, even if I never make it to Congress, haven't been there, that day will be something I'll be proud of, and I think that some of us will be heroes. I slightly facetiously referred to Ashley as the Crispus Attucks of the modern age, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was a Reichstag fire. Everyone who was there, the true Trump supporters, wanted that 12 hours of testimony. Paul Gosar, people who were affiliated with him, actually uh, recruited me at CPAC to do this, and he is a definite role model of mine, and I would like to have some of the courage and fortitude of fellows like that, and Andy Biggs and Chip Roy and the like. But you were talking about Indiana. Back in 23, I was canvassing for Trump and for Congressman, now Senator Jim Banks, just getting signatures to put him on the state ballot. And when I went to Republican officials in I was like, well, it had to be Republican signature, so I'll go to the elected officials. Only 50% would sign for Jim Banks.
You
even
kidding me?
though he'd already been endorsed by the state. Yeah. And when I would put the Trump for the Trump signature, you'd think I'd serve them a dead rat sandwich and then try to make them eat it. 2-1, every single elected Republican in my county refused to sign that signature. I'm like, whoa, whoa, not an endorsement. It's just put the man on the ballot, And when our Lincoln dinner came around in February of 24, and Nikki was pretty much already out of the race, uh, she was winning Lincoln dinner straw polls left and right, including in my county. And I was like, this is in a state in which Trump has won 3 times in a row by more than an average of more than 17%. And
Yeah.
what is encouraging is the people in my district, they're tired of suffering. This district's been blue for 98 years. I joke, since Al Capone ran these streets, since before
Good
FDR was
Lord.
in the White House. But the socialism isn't as bad here as it is across the state line in Chicago and Cook
Yeah.
County. And we have a lot of refugees. But the people, the Republicans up here, know what it's like to suffer under Democrat rule, Democrat corruption, and they're ready, and Democrat broken promises, and that's why it's gone so far to the right, as I described in the last year. And Trump, in his 3 runs, he lost Lake County, he lost the district by 12 points, then he lost it by 8 points, and back in 24, he lost it by 0.4 points. The corruption in
Wow.
Lake County alone would has most wags thinking he actually won the district in 24. And that's why we made the calculation that a candidate who's willing to fight for America, willing to fight for the district, willing to fight for the working men and women that built America, that was the arsenal of democracy. Those
Mhm.
people will come out for the right person. They're not going to come out for a Mitt Romney. They'll come out for a Trump. They're not going to come out for the gal I told you about, but hopefully they'll come out for someone like me who's and I've managed to alienate 4 Republican governors in a row because just my activities within the state, standing up for my city, my county, just
Yeah.
my neighbors, and
It doesn't sound like they were
it's
real
gonna become.
Republicans anyway. They sound like more undocumented
No,
Democrats to me.
there we go.
We
Thank you.
are. Well, I mean, again, that's the thing. We need people that will actually fight for our values. And this has been the problem we hear over and over again in different states right now, one form or another. And that's that the GOP will not get behind real conservative candidates, real movements. I mean, they literally sabotaged at least 4 candidates, probably more, in Illinois that we know of so far, and are refusing to fight. I mean, gentlemen, this program is normally kind of based out of Chicago when Terry Newsom's on, the regular co-host here with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we focus on their issues. They had Tedora Brown. She was left off the ballot in an entire county. She was essentially the front runner, but they left her off the biggest county that she was running in. The GOP doesn't want to do anything about that. Same thing happened to Skylar Dunsing. He was left off of ballots in a different county across on the other side of the state. I'm blanking on who the other gentleman was, but same thing. He's left off an entire county's ballots. The GOP just goes, oops, well, must have been a human error. Sorry that happened. No, we won't help you fight it or take it up the court further up the chain or anything. There's, you know what? Well, we got the rhino that can't beat the Democrat on the ballot. That's who we really wanted. So you're on your own. I mean, a couple of these candidates, the GOP actually tried to prevent them, question their signatures, got into a legal fight with them, and forced them to spend money fighting against the GOP to keep them off the ballot. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. Got a story. We'll probably have somebody on about it next week. Same thing's happening in freaking Arkansas right now, of all places. Sorry, Noah, go ahead.
And Tedora is a client of mine, a close friend of mine, and Tedora and keep in mind, she got 85% of her 5,000 signatures completely by herself, without any help. And they questioned these signatures, and she had to spend $25,000 to go all the way to an appellate court just to remain on the ballot. But by the time she had got to the appellate court, they had already printed the ballots, so then she wasn't even on DuPage County's ballot. And DuPage County is the biggest county in the whole district. And these are the kind of games our own GOP play. We have a hard enough time fighting the Democrats. Now essentially we're fighting ourselves. And if you look at the infighting of Illinois and surrounding states, it's just ridiculous. Somebody's got to step up and step up fast.
Yeah, it really needs to happen. Jim, what's the best way that people can find you? And what's the biggest thing that you need help with your campaign right now? Because this is something I say over and over on here. Guys, do you want to change the country? You're going to have to do something. You got to get off your butt, get involved. That means giving up one of your Saturdays a month to go knock on doors or make phone calls, and that's what you do. Otherwise, you're handing this country off to people that want to destroy it, to literal communists, socialists, and Satanists. And this isn't. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is literally what we're facing right now. So, Jim, what is the best way that they can help your campaign? Where can they go? And I've got it on the screen here right now.
Right. Best is to go to the website. It's www.schenkforcongress.com. Check out that spelling, SCHENKE, messed up at Ellis Island. There's opportunities there to donate and to volunteer. I will tell you that when I was a CPAC, I signed on board a fellow who was involved with both Pressler and Turning Point back in 24 in Pennsylvania to mount last month ground game. And we've got Turning Point and Pressler in Indiana, in my district, seeking scalps, trying to get elected to state senators, Trump anointed people to take out the rhinos who voted against redistricting. But hey, let's not forget this congressional race that everybody's so upset about has become winnable, and we've got our kind of guy, me, in it.
Yes.
So I do the guy who's I'm bringing in to help win Pennsylvania. We're going to need folks who can knock on doors, and I also found an incredible digital team who's going to find the exact people that we need to turn out. But digital does cost money, and
Yes.
it doesn't cost as much as TV, or it doesn't cost as much as Chicago TV, but it does cost money. So with your kind generated donations of money, I can get word directly into the computer screen's eyes of the people who can turn this. But also, if you feel as strongly as I do, and as our host in this channel feels, there are plenty of door knocking opportunities coming up, because it's going to be about turnout. This is a midterm.
Yes.
Trump's not on the ballot. You get the right people out in a suppressed year, and we will have the right candidate, and we will carry this forward to November in victory.
Well said. And yeah, guys, I know there's a lot of people that can't afford to make a financial contribution or can't afford to make a big one. Maybe it's only $20. Every little bit helps, but everybody has is time. But like I said, victory takes sacrifice. That means you are going to have to give up some days off here and there. Go do it. Your country and future generations really do depend on you. We've got to fight back at least as hard as these blue-haired moonbat wine moms that take to the streets and harass ICE agents. If we're not going to get out there and do something, then we've already surrendered. I'm not ready to give up and run off to El Salvador yet. Maybe in a few more election cycles. Right now, we can still save America, but it depends on you. Get out there and do something. Even if you can't afford to make a financial contribution, there's something you can do, even if you're out of state. I'm sure you guys have remote phone banking capability with your campaign, right?
Yes.
All
Well,
right,
yes.
guys.
I mean,
Well,
I've
there
got a lot
you
of,
heard it.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. I was just say, yeah, if you can't even walk, you can talk. And if you talk, you can talk to people and get the word out and get the right people to the polls. And we'll happily take anything. And I'll tell you what, I know this is a secular network, but I would not be doing this without the armor of God. And even if you can't even talk to a neighbor, you can talk to God on behalf of our nation. And folks like myself who are stepping up in very fraught situations to make a difference for all of us.
Oh, we're definitely a Christian network here, but yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to disparage. I didn't want to paint you into a corner you weren't in. But everyone I've encountered has been believers. But that's it's really going to be believers that America's been blessed, and we've got a large remnant here. Let's make our country. Let's save our country and make sure our country's worth saving. And like I said, if you can't walk, if you can't pay, walk. If you can't walk, talk. And if you can't talk, please do pray.
Yeah, and guys, if you're in a state right now that's a clear red state, if you're somewhere like West Virginia, in whatever district, you already know the Republican candidate's going to win. You don't need to help drag them across the finish line. Connect with Jim's campaign. Help out there. I mean, that's largely what I do here in Ohio. I'm in a district that is deep red. Well, we're not going to lose. So I typically try to find other candidates to help out and either make calls on their campaign, or if they're close enough, a few times I've even gone and knocked on some doors in a few places, either around the state, or I went to Northern Kentucky one time. But all of us can do something. It just requires a little bit of sacrifice of your time. Everybody has that. Now, Jim's going to be with me tomorrow morning on the Insurrection, which you can also watch here on X America News. We'll be live from 11 to noon Eastern. We're going to cover more with his campaign, probably cover some news stories like we normally do on my program. And so, guys, please join us there tomorrow, especially if you've got more questions. I'll be taking, as always, we'll be watching for questions from the audience. If anybody sends something in that's really good, I'll make sure we get that asked while we're on air. Jim, thank you again for joining us. Noah, thank you for being here tonight. To our audience, thank you for being here with us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And Behind Enemy Lines, we'll be back next Thursday with even more.